The Hangar Z Podcast welcomes Chief Pilot Frank Peck from Omaha Police Department's Air Support Unit.
But the part of that story to this day that's still impactful to me is when I got to her phone was ringing. Her phone was about this far from her reach. She had it on a charger. So when she climbed out, she slipped, drops the phone falls, she falls, gets her leg stuck, and she can't get to the phone. It's her children calling her.
Welcome to the Hangar Z Podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts and partnered with Vertical Valor Magazine. In this episode, John Gray and Jack Schonely have a conversation with Chief Pilot Frank Peck of the Omaha Police Department. Frank brings a unique and well-rounded perspective to law enforcement aviation, having spent many years with the Nebraska State Patrol, including time as a canine handler where he experienced firsthand the value of air support. He eventually shifted his focus to aviation, advancing from a part-time tactical flight officer to captain and chief pilot of Aviation Support Division. During his tenure, Frank led significant expansions in aircraft capabilities, mission equipment, and aviation facilities, all while actively supporting troopers from the air. He now brings that wealth of experience to the Omaha Police Department, where he continues as chief pilot. Known for his hands-on leadership style, Frank is committed to continually improving every aspect of the unit that he leads. Thank you to our sponsors, Precision Aviation Group, Anodyne Electronics Manufacturing, and Quantum Helicopters.
Welcome to the Hangar Z Podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts. The Hangar Z Podcast is the first and only podcast dedicated to promoting and exploring the personnel and equipment behind the missions in public safety aviation.
Still southbound, skidding to a stop. Stand by here. Looks like you're getting ready to bail. Heads up, guys, bailing. Okay, the guy, he's running through the house, jumping the fence, threw the shotgun, threw something out. Grabbing the shotgun. Don't go over that fence. Don't go over that fence. Grab the shotgun again. He is armed. Stay there. Hold your position.
I do want to ask you though, this is because we've had guests with statewide and large areas, but what are the challenges supervising a unit across an entire state? I mean, you have assets and personnel that are not all on the little island at your hangar. There's multiple places. There's multiple things that you need to deal with. Is that how it was in Nebraska, or was it kind of centrally located where you could have a grasp on it all the time?
Well, it was split. So there was a facility out west, and then there was a facility here in Lincoln, and there are challenges with that. But the sidebar of that is, again, I give credit to people around me, and I had some great subordinates who understood the mission, knew the expectations, strived to be great, and so it kind of made things easier, if that makes sense. Now, there's huge challenges, as we all know, and because your call might be an hour away, or as we all know, well, it's clear in a million here. It's beautiful here. What do you mean you guys can't fly? Well, I'm 75 miles away, and there is a storm that's between us that you're not looking at, but I have to fly through. And non-aviators don't understand that because they're calling for a resource. And that goes back to kind of what we were talking about earlier. But you have to explain it, understand it, and do it properly. And I have an example of that literally just happened last week. A friend of mine who was a troop commander about 2 hours away from here, they had an incident. And he called me, and I told him, hey, we can't come. The weather, the visibility is going to drop. The fog's going to set in, blah, 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 blah. And it was a bad call. Trust me, I wanted to be there, but that's, again, as we've all had to make that decision that, damn, we can't go. So he's like, okay. And he was in the middle of their problem. And about 30 minutes later, my phone rings again, and it's him. And he and I were on SWAT together. And so we had served, we had a connection and a relationship, both captains at the time. And he called, he goes, I really need you here. This guy's blah, 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 blah. And I go, I just told you 30 minutes ago, it's not happening. No, I can't. Don't call me again. And I got, short with him. And he hung up and whatever. So fast forward now, about an hour later, he calls me again. This is the third call. And I pick up. He goes, "Hey, I got to apologize. I can't see 10 feet in front of me. It's foggy, and I'm sorry. I told you that, why?" I go, "I'd be there. We'd be there. We'd come in a minute." It's funny because last week he pulled up. He got a new motorcycle, so he just happened to drive by. I was outside talking to some guys in my driveway. He pulls in, and those guys are asking me about aviation and some things, and he brings up the story. He goes, "Oh gosh, don't ever challenge Frank, because when he says no, and then you ask him again, he's going to go ballistic." And he goes, "But I'll admit, I was wrong. He was right." And I'm like, "Say that again. I need you to say that one more time. I know that was a lot of years ago, but I need you to say it one more time." But it's just kind of that whole thing of being able to relay and explain it all. And I think sometimes doing a post action with people when they you do have to tell them no or things going on, I think that goes a long ways too. Is don't be afraid to go, "Hey, call me if you have a question. I'm offering that to you."
That's important. It's important. Before we go to your second life, let's stay with the State Patrol here for a few more minutes. And most impactful incident. We ask a lot of people this, and we get some good stories. I mean, so we got to keep asking it. Most impactful incident with State Patrol. It can be at any point. It doesn't have to be aviation. It might be, but it could be from your whole time there.
There's a lot. I mean, as we all know, God,
there's always a lot.
I know. I don't know if it'd be impactful, but the one that, there's a lot, obviously good and bad, and things that we all know. Sure. We wish that we didn't happen to us or that we didn't see. And that's just the nature of our business. I guess one of the incidences that really kind of set well with me, how do I, chasing bad guys. That's what we love doing, right? Finding bad guys, stolen cars, all that good stuff and all that. I would say one of the most impactful things, or one of the things that really just kind of sits in my head, is finding a dementia gal.
Perfect.
We've all done that. We've all had things like that happen. And I can think of a couple of them. We looked for a gal one night, and the weather came in where we had to vacate. Didn't find her. We came back the next, hours later, the next morning when the weather was gone. There's two that are sticking in my head, so I apologize. I'm going to kind of give you two things, but they'll kind of go in sequence with each other. We looked over and we utilized, thank God we have great equipment. Looked over and I couldn't believe it. She was on a fence in the water, stuck, like to her chest or gut. Daylight, we landed. I went out, coaxed her, tried to get her to come to me. She was disoriented. She had been out there all night. And that was something that was disheartening. But I ended up grabbing some weeds that were like flowers and grabbed them, and I put them in my hand. And she looked at me, and I think, because I had a helmet on, I probably looked like a alien to her.
Stormtrooper.
Yeah. Stormtrooper, because I am a Star Wars guy. But anyways, we got her out, and she came to me. I got in the water and kind of grabbed her, and it wasn't like it was a raging river or anything. I'm not trying to make it something it's not, but we loaded her up in the aircraft and flew her to an ambulance. So that was impactful. But then that just made me think of one that I wasn't even thinking about. But fast forward now, years later, this is actually one of the last calls I did with the patrol before I went to Omaha. My mother died of dementia. Don't mean to be a downer. I don't wish that upon my worst enemy. I watched my mother, go through all that and, do that. And to this day, I think, I went through that so that I could pass what happened to me on to some of my friends that are dealing with that with their parents. Because I told them how to maybe help deal with that by my mistakes and what I learned. I had gone up to visit my mother up in where she was at. She was in a home, and I had left, and my phone rings, and I'm driving back down to Lincoln, and the dispatch said, "Hey, we got a gal that's been missing since like 11:30 this morning. She went out. They think she's got some dementia. She was driving. They found her car. They've been looking. It's like 4:00 in the afternoon now, mid-afternoon." And I was kind of miffed. I'm like, God, why did they call now? Or no, why didn't they call hours ago? And so I'm like, okay, no worries. I said, I'll go to the hangar. One of the guy that took over for me and did a great job after I left. He came in, so he and I went up and flew it. So we go up to this location, about, an hour away, but I had just left my mom. And she's towards the end and, frail and all that good stuff. And we're looking and we're hunting. And I'm like, we know where the car was at. They've got every fire rescue. They've got all these people out, looking, ATVs, UTVs, all the stuff, it's kind of out in the country, no man's land, and it's fields and all that good stuff in Nebraska. So we're looking. Well, we had done this enough, as we all had. We're like, okay, let's start expanding out our perimeter. Let's get further and further out where these people aren't looking. We'll make the assumption that they've looked here and they've done all this. So we did a quick scan and did all that. And I was TFOing. Brian's flying. I just happened to, move the camera, and I caught something as we were coming around. And I'm like, it was just, again, an act of God. That because we had looked, it was right there. And so anyways, I'm like, holy cow, I caught something. I flipped the screen back, or the camera back over. He moves the aircraft out, and sure enough, I'm like, there's a body right there. She's there. And it was a cornfield, a tree line, and a bean field. It probably doesn't mean a lot to a lot of people, but can't see from this angle probably very well. You got corn, it's 130 degrees in there. Get down in the bottom of it, but she was literally right on the corner in this, these, I don't know, a couple feet bean field. You could see we're just in a fetal position. We're miles from where everybody's at, where everybody's searching and all that. We're out. So we make the decision that, hey, by the time we get people here and do this, we can land, because there's an open field. We had a safe zone, and like all of us, you're always planning and looking for a spot to go if we have, as Brian teaches us and everybody teaches us, that always have, somewhere to go when something happens. We made the decision to land. So we landed. I got out, walked over to this gal. And as I get close, I'm thinking she's probably dead, but I get there and she's fetal, and I'm like, ma'am, and she moves and she looks at me. When she did, don't take this wrong, but I seen my mom. Glasses, just, in a bad way.
Yeah.
So picked her up. Adrenaline kicks in. I'm like, but, I just, in my head, I'm like, my God, this is, unfortunately, thank God it's not my mom, but that was my nightmare with my mother, was if she got out, they'd be calling us to go hunt her and find her. But here's this gal, so I picked her up, take her over to the aircraft. We throw her on the back of the aircraft. I'm back there with her. They knew that we had found her, and we had already told them that, hey, we're bringing her to the ambulance, to where everybody's at their command post. And they had, again, fortunately, there was a road, plenty of, safe to land. Grabbed her, got her in the back. But we, like everybody, we carried water bottles and some medical kits and things. So got her a little bit of water. She was dehydrated and lost and confused, but alive, and just kind of staring at me. So we land, we get her out, I pick her up, and they had pulled a gurney over, kind of, and I just, she's like 90 pounds, just nothing, just a small older gal. Dropped her on that, and we were like, all right, we'll see you later. Well, I didn't realize at the time, I found this out later from the sheriff's department, her kids watched me do that. Or watched us do that.
Right.
And, that was impactful to them. To us, it was like, okay, cool, great. Let's move on. We got other things to deal with. Dropped her down. People thank you. We're like, all right, we're out of here. We got to go. Thanks. Good luck. We're done. And so, we go home. No big deal. That was just kind of one of the end calls of my time at the patrol. And, there's a sidebar to that. Well, I actually have a photo of where she was laying. And the reason I do is because when we got ready to leave, we were taking off, I realized I don't have my cell phone. I dropped it somewhere between where we landed and where she was at. So we went back and landed, because you got to grab a state cell phone. You can't leave that out there. It's equipment. I got a bunch of paperwork. So we landed. Well, I found my phone right by her. Well, I just instinctually snapped a few photos, because you could see where she had buried the beans down. And I thought, I don't know why I took the photo, but I took it, and just still have it. And then fast forward, my, mom a couple weeks later went, but that was very impactful to me. And that was at the end, but I have one more, if you don't mind, Jack,
Go ahead.
That I think from an aviation, this all kind of carries over to we all know how expensive aviation is and how expensive it is to send us all to training every year and annually and what we do. But I use that example as that family, if they could afford it, they'd buy us 6 helicopters.
Sure.
They'd buy every camera we could humanly possibly get, because that one life meant that much. And I've used that. I'm like, well, what's a life worth? It is worth maybe a $5 million helicopter. It is worth a $500,000 camera. It is worth a downlink. It is worth all these things. And that's that selling that we've all done, and cataloging those events that, yeah, it's great. And we've done it. We all do it. Our guys recovered 4 guns last week. They got pitched out. And I'll say, well, without the aircraft and our camera, those would have never been discovered, probably. I had another one that we had that actually, kind of going back, and I wish I would have thought about this, but it just triggered when you asked me that question. How we sold and marketed to upgrade equipment and do more. We had almost the same event years back when we had our Jet Ranger. A gal that was heading to church, never made it. Nobody knew where she was at, what was going on. They were out looking and hunting, trying to find her. It's cold. It's going to be really, really cold. It's now like 3:00. It's going to get dark pretty soon. They call us late. We took off from Lincoln and flew about 40 miles from here, and we found her in about 15 minutes. She had gotten turned around somehow and ended up on one of these, we call them minimum maintenance roads. They're roads that are not really traveled. They're not really farm drives, but they're just not really maintained very well. They're just out there, and somehow had gotten into that. And when we made the turn, I looked over, reached to call and notify that we had found, and we could see the car down in a ditch, and it's kind of a deeper ditch, and the car is on its side, right? And on the outside that car, I see her hanging. She's half ejected, right? So I look over in my heart, as all of us, I'm like, oh man, it's 11. She went missing at 8:00 this morning. It's now 4:00 in the afternoon. We're looking, I could see it, I look over and I can see her hanging out the side of that car. So I'm assuming she's dead. I look over, look back over again, and I seen this, her hand move, like an arm move. And I caught it. I'm like, so the pilot and I that were working, I was TFOing because I used to love TFOing, as all of us do. That's the best job in the world. So I'm TFOing, and so we make the decision again at that one to, hey, let's land. We got a spot right here. Let's land. I'm going to, get out. We'll see, go try to help, whatever. So we land, and when we do, I go over to her, and I try to grab her, and I can't. That her weight is holding her, and her foot is caught on the steering wheel, and I can't get the leverage to get her foot loose. So I kind of run back up the hill or the ditch to where the pilot's at, and I do wave him. He just doesn't even shut down. He does what at the moment, because he knew that time was critical for us. He comes over and helps us. We get her unhooked, get her on the ground, and get her to a deal. We start covering her up. I take my coat and cover her up and try to, start, because she's in a bad way too, bleeding and, all that good stuff. So the pilot jumps back in the aircraft and launches because we're calling for EMS. So his whole deal is he's going to coordinate with the EMS ship to get them right to that spot, because we're trying to get ambulances and things down there. But the road is so bad that, with mud, and we had a bad storm and all that good stuff. But anyways, she's okay. We get her evac'd. She's fine. But the part of that story to this day that's still impactful to me is when I got to her phone was ringing.
Thank you to our sponsor, Precision Aviation Group. Mission-critical operators and fleet managers rely on Precision Aviation Group as a worldwide leading rotor and fixed-wing MRO provider. PAG provides tip-to-tail solutions in 4 MRO segments: avionics, components, engines, and manufacturing DER services. A single point of contact gives you access to over 150 million in inventory globally, 24/7. Just call 800-537-2778. Precision Aviation Group. Others sell parts. We sell support.
Her phone was about this far from her reach. She had it on a charger. So when she climbed out, she slipped, drops the phone falls, she falls, gets her leg stuck, and she can't get to the phone. It's her children calling her. And this was all before, you could ping a phone and do all the things that we could do. It was just a little flip phone, but I heard it ringing when I walked over to her because it was still plugged in. People are trying to call her, and I described it as a kind of a bad movie. You're this far from being able to pick up the phone. You're this close. Basically, your life and death is this close. And she couldn't not get to the phone, and it couldn't get to it. So anyways, we get her evac'd and do all that stuff, and then no big deal. So the next day, though, I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm just going to stop by the hospital on my way home. I'm in plain clothes. I didn't want to go up there in uniform, but I just wanted to, there's something about her. I just wanted to check with her, right? So I go to the hospital, figure out, they let me in the room, and I walk in, and her kids and some people are in there, and this gal is sitting at the bed, and tough lady, my God, she was tough. She's all black and blue now, because she had been hanging upside down. So, she's she doesn't look very good. Good farm mom. And so I walk in there, and she looks at me, and I'm like, hi. She goes, you're him. And I go, what? She goes, you're the angel. And I'm like, well, she goes, you're the guy that helped me yesterday. Because she wasn't really there either. And I'm like, well, yes, ma'am, I am. I said, I just wanted to say hi to you and check how you're doing. I don't, no big deal. I just glad to see you're doing well. And it was a pleasure meeting you. And but she said that, and that was really impactful from her perspective to me as a guy. So we use that as, we started analyzing things and how we could do more if we had better equipment, and if we could expand the radios, if we could do all this stuff. We started looking at our holes in our operation, and that was kind of motivational too, to keep us moving. But I know that was more than what you asked, but those are some impactful things that happen. But we can all talk about, oh yeah, we got a guy with a gun, we did this, we had this. Those to me are that's what we live for and what we do. But I think some of these other missions that we're involved in are critical, and they're critical to our environment, to our units, and to our operation, and the value of having an airborne law enforcement unit. And again, I'll go back to, I don't care if it's helicopters, planes, or drones, the value that all these things bring, and they are life-saving, and it's just a huge thing. And I hope commanders, I hope colonels, chiefs, and mayors, and city councils, and people like that understand the value that's there. And I think those types of events, which unfortunately a lot of people don't get to hear about, don't realize, without that resource, what would have happened? We can what if all day. So those are some impactful things.
Well, there's a reason that we use the word impactful and not dangerous, or tell us about your most hair-raising, high-speed pursuit. No. We've all done that. Those are a dime a dozen. The impactful stories are not a dime a dozen. They are unique, impactful stories that really prove the worth, just like you described, of air units. And that's why we ask it that way. Right, John? You've asked that of many guests as well.
It's funny when we ask those questions, and even our own responses, it's not like Jack said, or you said, Frank, it's not a wild pursuit that terminates in a officer involved shooting or any of those things. For me, it was a petty theft of a bike, and for Jack, it was a strong arm robbery of the lady with a purse, and like not big deals, but the resulting positive outcome of those incidents is what was impactful.
Yeah.
When you can positively impact the community in ways that we don't often get to do.
Right.
Those are really cool experiences, and what you're describing, Frank, I often think of my own career and the things that impacted me is, emotional, or things and people and times where I could most relate to my own life. Kids drowning, I've always had a hard time with that. And I think most people do, because you envision your own family and how you'd respond. You talk about your mom, and man, you brought tears to my eyes talking about that, because I can envision the same thing.
Yep.
We all think about these things and how it impacts or could potentially impact your own life. And I think that's what we talk about a lot, and we encourage young police officers to treat people in the community as if they were your family. And you did that, Frank, with that elderly lady that you picked up, and that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just, the right place, right time, and things happen. And as we've all said, I think in the business we all live, it's not your time, but when it is, it's your time.
Well, and I'll add to that, that's the right people in the right place at the right time, because not everybody would go that extra mile like you did, Frank.
Well, it's, again, surrounded by great crews and great people.
Sure.
So it's that makes things.
Yeah, just keep deflecting, Frank. Whatever.
Oh, well,
Yeah, we know you well enough to know you're a good man, and take that compliment, because you deserve it.
well, I appreciate that, and that means a hell of a lot. Thank you, thank you all. So, but didn't mean to bring it down.
No, great.
It's just, I think those types of events are very impactful, and it's funny that you guys would ask that, because I'm sitting there thinking to myself, next time I'm talking to one of our guys and I'm just having a chit chat session, I'm like, hey, real quick, just out of curiosity, what's the most impactful thing you've ever had happen to you?
Well, when you watch this when it comes out, Frank, I want you to watch how you were scratching your head and going, geez, I don't know. And then you tell 3 incredibly impactful stories like that. And it made me chuckle, because I was like, and I know you have more. And that's the cool thing about the job, that you do have impact on people's lives, and we don't talk about them all the time. And we just don't. People are humble, and people are, like you said, it didn't make the, world news, but those families will never forget that. Ever forget that. And that lady will never forget that you walked into that hospital room. I mean, you didn't have to do that, but you did. And so it's not just impactful for you, it's impactful for the victims. And now it's impactful for the 3 of us sitting here listening to your story. And it's going to be impactful for everybody that listens to it, where they go, wow, we really do make a difference. Because sometimes we need to hear that stuff, because we're tired of getting beaten up, 24/7.
Yeah, and I think we all take it for granted, I mean, It's just kind of, this is the life and the environment we chose. But
Yeah.
still a great gig.
Yeah. And as the time is flying by here, we've got to get to your next life here. 2019, you made a big move, a big transition to a new position. Tell us about that change of departments, and what that was like, and where you are now.
Again, I think the stars kind of aligned for me at the time. Unfortunately, I probably should back up a little bit. There was a few incidences in 2019 at the Omaha Police Department. In fact, right after, AFSA was there in Omaha, there were 2 incidences where 2 aircraft were destroyed within 6 months. I'm not really going to get into all that. It's just, people know, things happen, and nobody was hurt. Thank God. Let me clarify that. Nobody was hurt, but 2 aircraft were destroyed, and within a few months of each other, the incidents happened. So, like most units, they did a shutdown, and they brought in some outside evaluators to kind of look at things. And I think, well, I'm not going to roots names and all that, but a couple guys out of Oklahoma, Texas, and somebody out of Florida, they all kind of came together to take a look. And at the time, they suggested or told the chief of police, who's a phenomenal guy here, that, hey, kill the unit or bring somebody in to manage the unit. Nothing against the folks that were there, because they were doing a good job. It just, things happen, I guess. And they needed to make a change. I was in drop with the patrol, and drop is, where you're eligible to retire. I'm pretty confident most of us all know what that is. So I had 29 and a half years on roughly at the time. I'd just gone into drop, so I had 5 years left, about 4.5 years left in that drop period, where either you can go or, at the end of that, you got to leave. So that's where I was at. I ran into the chief, and, he said, hey, I'd like to visit with you. And at the time, I'm like, no, not, I'm not, no. And he's like, no, seriously, I'd like to visit with you. So I did. Kind of the whole, look, we kind of would like to go in this direction. We kind of want to do this. We've got some things. This is what I want to do. Fast forward, I guess, a little bit. I looked at it, and, I kind of said this to the chief. I said, I don't want to come into something on we're hoping to, we're going to try, we might, those types of things. I said, I got to know that, there's a commitment, and also some things that I may want to do may not align with what some people believe, but I think I have a good handle on kind of what we need to do and how we need to do it. And, he agreed to that. And so I retired from the State Patrol. And my last day was October 18th of 2019. I walked into the Omaha Police Department November 1 of 2019.
As the chief pilot.
Yep. So I was hired as the chief pilot. The union was aware of it. Did the whole council thing, and the mayor and all them. And I knew those pilots, and I knew, a lot of those people that were there already because we worked together. Mm-hmm. And, but it was also, maybe a little awkward, because here's an outsider coming in. Now I'm not fresh off the street, but I kind of put myself in their shoes. Here's this, guy who's not an Omaha police officer walking in, and now going to be the chief pilot and be the boss or the commander, whatever term you want to use. But I also recognize that. And I hold true to this statement today. And I remember saying this to one of their deputy chiefs and the chief when I was coming on. I said, well, I'll never wear an OPD badge. And the deputy chief at the time was like, what? What do you, I think he took it as an offensive. And I'm like, no, I said, I didn't earn it. I said, I have a badge that says retired Nebraska State Patrol. That is my badge. I said, I have not earned the right, and I will not wear, nor do I want to, it was just, I was establishing where I was going to come in and how I wanted to come in, and basically just kind of laid out that, hey, I want to come in, get some things done, go to work, and make us safer, better. And they were relevant. They did a great job before I got there, and they're still doing a great job. But, that was kind of my whole goal. And so that's where we started. And we started changing some things right off the bat, just within days. And fortunately, you look at the unit now, it's when I first got here in 2019, none of those current folks that were there are here now, because some of them went on to different gigs, some retired, and some just moved on. But we have a whole new unit now from that moment. And we have, I'm pretty proud of this. We have 3 aircraft, all new aircraft. So we went from, and again, we went there because the people above us, the chief, and the guys that are there now, and that are gone now too. We went from almost shutting down the unit to, we have 3 aircraft, we have new cameras, we have downlink systems, we're doing other things, we're flying, we average is about 1,300 hours a year as a unit. It's mostly patrol. We have the capability now to do other things, with the 407, we can rappel, we can do other functions. So we're not just stagnant, but our primary mission is patrol. I'll put those guys up against anybody, because the crews we have right now are phenomenal. They're great. I love going to work. I'm lucky to get to go to work every day and work with those guys.
Three 407s?
No, so what we have is when I came in, we had a Jet Ranger, a B3. That was what was left.
That was it, right? That was the only airframe.
That was it at the time. So then we fast forward a little bit. That hey, we need they wanted a better aircraft. I wanted something more capable, because why not do more? Let's get out of that box. We were able to acquire a 407 GX, which has a whole story behind it in a funny way. And then fast forwarding now, we were able to acquire a 505. And then just a couple months ago, we got our second 505. So now our fleet consists of 407 GX and two Bell 505s.
And then give us the thumbnail on number of personnel and mission equipment on those birds.
Thank you to our sponsor, Quantum Helicopters. For over 2 decades, Phoenix PD, Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, Mesa PD, and the Pinell County Sheriff's Office in Arizona have trusted Quantum Helicopters for primary flight training. We've helped boost their efficiency, cut costs, delivered unmatched quality, and keep them focused on public safety. Don't just take our word for it. Reach out and see how we can deliver the same results for your agency. Visit quantumhelicopters.com to learn more.
Right now, we have 8 pilots. When we operate, we don't have part-time TFOs, 2 pilots. We have 2 pilots in the aircraft. Some of them are at different levels. We have some new folks that have their private helicopters, so they're working towards their commercial and all that good stuff. But all NVG ships, we added that, because that was at the time they didn't have that, and I thought it was important. Anytime we go outside the metro or even in the metro, great resource or asset to have. We have a full-time maintenance that does internal stuff, but then when we get to a level where it maybe goes above him, we have we utilize a Bell Service Center out in Fort Collins, Century Helicopter. And so that's kind of our unit. We operate in crews of 2. That's the way we do it.
So everybody's a pilot and everybody's a TFO.
Yep. And so the like most people, okay, Jack, I'll take this first one. You take the next one, or hey, I'm not. And it's good. I like this because it goes down to kind of what we've all talked, and Brian has taught us all too, is that it's okay you might go, hey, I'll TFO, but I'm a little tired. I got like 7 hours of sleep last night. I'm just not really feeling it. Okay, I'll fly. I'll be the PIC. And then also, I think if something would happen to somebody in the aircraft, we have that second piece, and that's just the way that we operate. It works for us. I know,
it works great. It works great for a lot of units, especially units of your size. It works great. It's the most practical thing in many ways, if you think about it.
Yeah.
To be able to do both on any given day.
I agree.
It allows you flexibility, and you get a lot more done than you would if you said, okay, we're only going to have 4 pilots and we're going to have 4 TFOs. Well, okay. Could that work? Sure. But you wouldn't get nearly as much done, in my humble opinion.
Oh, I absolutely agree with you. And I think, too, it's great because you're bouncing stuff off each other, as we all do, and all that. I think it just helps that culture. It works for us. And I'm glad we do it that way. I think it's the best thing for us. COVID kind of affected us because we couldn't mix the crews. We were trying to avoid contaminations and all that stuff. But that's a whole nother thing. But so
we wouldn't go there. Jeez.
Yeah, I apologize. So that's kind of how we operate. We have a day crew essentially, and then a night crew, and we don't really we run a lot of hours. We don't, like everybody, exactly lay out our hours. We run a day crew and a night crew, and they hit in, and they're on 12-hour days, the night crew. So they work a couple days. They get every other weekend off, which I think is refreshing. They got the best schedule. I would love to roll to their schedule, but like most people, your phone starts ringing at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I don't really want to go to work till 3. But anyways, it's just and what I do is I'll fill in their shifts, or I'll jump a flight here and there. But we have people building time, and people that are very proficient at their job. I seriously mean this when I say this. I like getting up and going to work, because I have great people, and I'm not just saying that. Those guys they're awesome. All these different personalities, as we all know, in any aviation unit. I've got every one of them, and it's great because it's a great rig.
Give us the specifics on mission equipment.
We're running West cams on the 2 505s, MX-10s, and 380 HDC on our 407. On top of that, we have microwave downlinks on all 3 systems, Tracos on all 3 systems, shot over on all 3 systems. As we all know, the commonality of fleet and equipment and all that goes a long ways. We're still tweaking and building. We're doing some things with our downlink side to get our video feeds into a program that the department's running with Fusus. We have CNC Live, which has been hugely beneficial for us, for our command, to be able to get that instant feed of what's going on. But we're evolving every day and working on things. And then also, about 2 years ago, the chief assigned the drones to me. So I have the drone unit too, and that's not a full-time function.
Let's go there. When I sent you the general outline, I said, hey, anything you don't want to talk about or want to talk about, you caught me and said, hey, UAS. And I had forgotten that's a big part of not only your position, but about what many of most, if not all of our listeners are dealing with in one way or another, UAS and UAS integration with manned, unmanned, all that. So let's go that route. Talk about the UAS that you're coordinating in your department.
So we have currently about 24 to 30 107 pilots. All our pilots in the air support unit are all 107s. So we kind of included that into our getting NVG and your commercial and instrument and everything that you've got to do. That's also kind of a function that we added in, and I'll explain why to that in a little bit. We have drones. They're not full time, so it's an ancillary duty that they're doing. Our pilots are doing. It started with our mobile tech, and then a couple years ago, it got moved to the air support side to me. The chief's like, hey, look, this is where we're probably going to do this. And, we were happy to take it on. Our mobile tech guys had done a great job getting it to where it was at. But our philosophy was a little bit different because we wanted to fly more. So in that first year, we increased the flight time of just the drones 154%. Because my theory was, if we're going to have the resources, we damn well better start deploying them. Let's get them used. Let's use them. Let's not just worry about, we might wear out a battery or we might do something. Let's leverage this. And that's a mandate from our chief. He wants technology leverage to make us safer. We're all short. Every department in the country is short. So if we can do things, let's do it. So we kind of took that on. We've now expanded it out. We've added pilots. We have them flying more, but they're utilized for our big events. Sometimes they augment the aircraft, which I think is, like Clay had talked about. I think that's a good thing. I know some people will probably argue with me on that, but we've gone to the extreme now. We have a bill within the state of Nebraska that we can no longer buy adversarial country equipment.
Right.
We don't make the rules, we enforce them. That's my philosophy. So when that rule was made, that took us where we no longer are allowed to utilize adversarial country made aircraft or drones. So we started going down a path, and I made the decision. I'm like, look, we can either kick the can or we can start moving and stay ahead of this game. And so we did. Right now, I don't know if can I use the company that we're moving? Is that appropriate, or is that a problem?
Sure.
So we started looking at Skydio. We are now, because they're tied into our department with Axon and the other infrastructures that they already have. And again, I'm not advocating for, we have DJI products too, and we still use them, but I don't want to be caught, behind the curve, because I think the future is here and it's only going to keep growing and expanding. And I think we need to welcome that future and, like I said, leverage those two resources. So we started moving down the Skydio path. We have one, and now we're actually working on. We have received our Beyond Visual Line of Sight, our DFR. We were the first entity in the state of Nebraska to get it. I don't know if anybody else does. I'll just say this. I said to the chief and to our people, I go, hey, look, we're the biggest metro one of the biggest metros in the Midwest. We damn well ought to be leading. and I don't want to let some other department get ahead of us. We need to do this. And fortunately, I got a guy that works with me. The sergeant that's there he's Johnny on the spot. He's all in, and he's done a great job. But we now have our beyond visual line of sight, so we can fly them autonomously. We started looking at the future of this and how this is going to go. So now we're moving down the path of DFR, because you can do that with that particular drone, and it works for us. Like I said, it's all integrated into our things, and we've actually been beta testing a dock at our central police station, and now we're working on funding and moving forward. We'll probably start with 6, and we have a station at our hangar that we've set up, because right now the dock is being flown internally by just our helicopter pilots, just our pilots inside the air support unit. And I'll tell you why we're doing that, because I got asked and I've been grilled on it. Some people totally disagree, and I recognize it. You're splitting functions. We're doing all this. No, if it's a helicopter thing, they'll we'll handle that. But if we've got a third person in the office, we can have that activated. And we're only, it's a beta test, so we're only working around the downtown area right now. So we've had incidences where normally we would launch a helicopter. Well, let's push the drone out. The drone's there in about a minute. We take a look. It's all tied into our systems. It's remotely flown. And then the decision can be made that, the aircraft's either launching or we need to launch an aircraft. So we've kind of set ourselves up in that function. Our future will probably be a real-time operation crime center, like most departments have or building. It'll probably, it all ties into that. So the ROC, as we call it, they can see all the video, and they tie all the traffic cams and all the cameras they have. And now they have the drone feeds, they have our aircraft feeds. It's all coming into one nucleus and making us safer, more efficient. And I believe helping with the shortage of manpower that every department has out there. So that's where we're at. We're growing, we're leveraging it. And, we're very lucky that our chief and our assistant chief and our staff see it, but we've sold it. We've showed it to them, and it's kind of hard not to see the value in that resource.
Brian and John, jump in here I know you're both thinking curious things about this. Go ahead.
I just had a question, Frank. You mentioned that it's used to augment the helicopter. Are you doing manned and unmanned aircraft working the same calls at times?
Occasionally, yes. But where our drones are at, they're obviously, it's 400 feet and below, or with our COA and what we have through the FA and everything, our remote drones, because I can fly the drone like right now. I could log in and fly it from my house, and we can do that. We have the license to do that. But those are usually 200 feet and below. So, sometimes the aircraft's there, so the aircraft's working and the drones are working. Or, the drone may take over the deal, because one of our fugitive unit may not be able to get tactically or safely on the back door, and they don't have the resources yet. So the aircraft's working it. Well, we call them Raptor. One of our Raptor units are working, and we get them there to, all right, we're out, the aircraft's out. The Raptor unit's going to take over and watch the backside of that house. We'll start jumping calls and, doing the other things that we can do.
And that's perfect. That's exactly what you should be doing with it. And like you said, so many people argue against it, but it's so commonsensical to use it like that. And do you back up the manned and unmanned? Do you guys have, like joint training or any kind of policies or procedures? You mentioned the altitude separation. Anything to really polish that type of operation?
One of the things that we did that was when people didn't realize, we patrol it usually 1,000 feet and above around the city, because our cameras are that good. And I know, Brian, you talked about that. Let the camera work for you. Keep us up and out so we got time to handle an emergency or something should come up. But so we keep that altitude pretty up a little bit higher. But what we did do, which was just really ironic to me, is we would fly to, when we had drone training, we'd bring a helicopter in and go, this is 400 feet. This is a helicopter orbiting, at 400 feet. And then we'd jump up. This is 1,000 feet. And I think people thought, oh my gosh, 1,000 feet is right there. I don't think that because again, they're not in that environment that we're in and used to it. They're on the ground. And so it was pretty eye-opening to people, I think, to our drone pilots of what that separation actually is. And I think it made them feel a lot better to know that, oh my gosh, that's a substantial difference. And, we had a drone go up at 200 feet, 400 feet, and the aircraft's at 1,000 feet or 1,200 feet orbiting the show. Look, you're here, we're here, we can work together. We as pilots are not worried about it, because as long as you follow your direction and we're communicating, we can mitigate so much that we can safely operate in the same airspace, and we do. Now, if we're coming down, we're going to communicate that, like a missing person or a drowning victim or something, and there's a drone, hey, and we see something, and they're going to get lower. We're going to come down, and get eyes on. Maybe if we can't get a drone there, we'll tell them, hey, we're going to come down, and the drone will move. We'll coordinate that. We'll work together. But yeah, we've implemented policies as far as the separation and all that good stuff.
Excellent. But
overall, to me, we can work together.
I agree. What you're doing makes sense. And we said it in the last podcast that I was on, the agencies that incorporate everything together, and it's just air support. It's not manned air support over here and unmanned over here. It's air support. Here's all of our resources. Let's coordinate and have all of our training, all of our policies, all of our procedures, all of our people together to work towards that common goal. It works fantastic. Where you are and everywhere else, and where you separate it just never works very well. So just another feather in your cap on how you're doing things right, Frank.
Thank you to our sponsor, AEM. The revolutionary MTP-136D P25 aerial firefighting radio is U.S. Forest Service approved. It's in stock and ready to ship. Grounded unexpectedly? No problem. AEM stocking dealers across North America are prepared to support all your mission-critical needs. Visit aem-corp.com/radio.
Well, I appreciate that. And I think, too, that the other side of that is, okay, I have to be a steward of the city's money, right? I have a budget. I have to answer to our budget. And I talked to our finance director that represents the department just a couple of weeks ago about the drones and everything. And there's an expense to that because of what we're going to with our docks. There's an expense to that, and there will be a long-term expense to that too. But I said to her, I go, let me run this by you. I go, if we can save 100 hours on our aircraft, because maybe we covered some of these other little events that normally we would launch an aircraft for, but we could do it with the drone. I go, think of the money that we're saving and that maybe we could push in other locations and do stuff. I go, they will never, in my opinion, the drones are not going to replace the aircraft, the manned aircraft, until we can start buying Predators, Reapers, those types of things. That might change things a little bit. But I just, again, I'm an advocate for augmenting the two resources together. But she was taken back when I said that. I go, we could save 100 hours, which maybe that engine overhaul, instead of being this budget year, even though it's only 100 hours, it may delay it till the end of the year or push it to the next budget cycle. And, we had an event with, we tracked a guy, took off, and we have a really good unit or core group of folks that help with SWAT and the indoor stuff. And that's what they do. We lost the guy. We knew he was at that house. We knew where he didn't get out of that perimeter. We knew he was there. Well, the drone unit comes in. It's great footage. Aircraft hit. He's in the backyard. He's here. He's in something or got under something. But he's there. So the drone unit comes in, and there's a shed, and the door's open about this far. So the little drone comes in. They go through there. They turn, and it's the guy going. Here he is in the corner, and that's where he was at. But that was a prime example of utilizing the two resources, because they knew now the search team knew, okay, he's in the shed, he's there, he's to the right. Now, yes, he could move, but they had that live feed right there with the drone, And did it save somebody's life, or maybe save that guy's life? Probably. I mean, I'm just an advocate for it, and I know a lot of pilots and a lot of people aren't, but we're trying to build on that, and it's the dock thing is amazing to me. And in the beta tests that we've done, we've had some massive what I would call massive great wins. Some funny things happen with them, and some things that, I mean, made a difference. And I think we just had one about 2 weeks ago with our dock. So
I can think of a lot of nights, and Brian, you probably did this too, and Jack, you may have, but you guys operate a little different, where you're on the ground, you just got back from a patrol flight, and it's 12:30 at night, and a patrol unit calls you up to do a roof check for an alarm on an attic hatch.
Yeah.
You're like, man, we just came back. We're gonna launch and spend an hour of flight time to go check an attic hatch. Whereas what you're talking about, Frank, you can launch this drone and go check it, satisfy everybody, and you've saved the city or the agency you work for a ton of money. You've preserved the crew's fatigue levels so that when they do get called up in an hour for a pursuit or whatever the critical incident is, they're fresh. So I think it's a win-win. The folks, I think the number of folks that are not in favor of these programs are diminishing because they're seeing the value of combining these programs. So I just encourage anybody who's considering merging the programs, who haven't yet done that, to get in touch with somebody like Frank to figure out how do we do this successfully. Because it's these programs, like Brian said, that in my mind, they're only successful if you're doing them in conjunction with the program that already exists. No reason when you go and learn these lessons all over again that have already been taught and learned by these crews operating these camera systems out of helicopters. Just wild to me that administrators don't see the parallels between these two programs. So just my 2 cents, but you guys are doing a great job.
It's time for your Heli Life giveaway buzzword. Listen up and remember this word because you'll need it to enter for a chance to win exclusive Heli Life gear. Ready? This episode's buzzword is SHIELD. Visit contest.verticalhelicasts.com to enter the buzzword.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, the thing that jumped out at me there is that you said, you can send a drone out and keep the helicopter back until you see what you have. I like that. And the important part that many units are missing is that you need that drone operator to be at the same level of service that you would get from that helicopter or fixed wing. The service level should be the same. It should be seamless. It shouldn't be, the drone guys, they show up, but they don't find anybody. That should not be the case. It should be that the drone can find somebody because they've been trained in where to look, how to use infrared, and they're effective and they're efficient and all the same things that we teach TFOs. Many departments are missing out on that, and they have resources to learn more, but they choose not to. I mean, we just talked to Ryan Welsh from Tactical Flying, and he said, the biggest increase in calls that they get is from drone operators. And that was great because they're going to get trained now the same way tactical flight officers have been trained in the use of that gimbal and tactics and techniques and communication that is so unique from air to ground and ground to air. So I'm with you, Frank. I think it's great that it's within your unit, and you don't have to reinvent the wheel with these things. There's people out there that have been there, done that, just from a different airframe. That's all. So that's encouraging that you're doing it that way. It's a topic that comes up a lot. I mean, Texas TPS, oh my gosh, they are light years ahead of the game here with this. I just wrote an article that's going to be in the AppsCon issue of Valor, and it was all about what Texas TPS has done about manned-unmanned integration. That's the whole article, is about manned-unmanned integration. I was amazed at their training for their UAS people. Wow. I mean, very demanding. They introduce manned aircraft into the mix from day one in the training about airspace, in the training about rules, and the training about tactics. It's really impressive. And, there are other people doing it too, but it's a good topic to talk about, because you don't want a catastrophe, and it can happen, if it can happen. So,
and I've encouraged some of our people that want to try to get into the air support unit. I'm like, well, hey, try to get on the drone side, because what you just mentioned.
Yeah,
you're kind of actually being a TFO with the drone.
Yeah,
like you're cutting those angles. We're learning to work all that stuff, everything that we've all been taught and that we all do, and all that. I'm like, start there, because it's competitive to get in the unit. It's a lot of people, as we all know, don't leave, and but I'm like, start there, and that'll maybe help you get your foot in the door when it comes time for us to maybe pick up a new pilot. And we're unique in that aspect.
You're dealing with safety, you're dealing with flight rules, you're dealing with tactics, you're dealing with communication, you're dealing with camera gimbal techniques, FLIR technique. I mean, the list goes on and on. It's a natural transition to get to air support as a TFO if you have some drone experience, if you have been doing it right. As long as you're not just flying around the drone, if you're doing it right and getting trained and getting the proper training, it's a great transition. I mean, you'll establish a reputation that you can go into an interview and say, well, I've been in the UAS unit for the past 3 years. This is what I've done there, blah, blah, blah. Boy, that's checking a lot of boxes for a TFO oral.
And we have a lot of people that know that we have this Skydio doc beta test going. It's at the point now where the people that are in that area or work in that region are calling for it.
Yeah.
Which is awesome, because the guys come in the morning, the guys come in, they pre-flight it, they do everything they got to do. We have a really nice system set up, I think, at our hangar. It's a cubicle that's for the remote operations, and you punch in, you go into the Skydio program. It's all cataloged, it's all loaded, the video sent into our infrastructure. It's kind of seamless, but now we have it active and ready so that when somebody does call, we have a jumper on the bridge. Yes, we have cameras, but now we push a button, fly here, the drone zips over there in about 40 seconds. The camera is now going, we have eyes on, there is a jumper. There's somebody there, and that automation's there. I mean, it's there, and I think it's our future, and I think it's as Clay said, and I'll say, everybody has said, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
It's only going to expand, and we need to be leveraging that resource.
Evolution or revolution. Someone's really smart told me that once.
Yeah, who was that said that?
That's
a really smart guy, I'll tell you that. It's so true, though. It's so true. It's not going anywhere. Why would you not want to be safe? Why would you not want to be effective and efficient and coordinating? You have to. You have to.
I feel we're lucky, and coming from a couple different ages, from my past life is what I always refer to it as, to my current life. We have one of the longest serving major metro chiefs in the country, right? Very supportive. But again, being at the top, he's making business decisions. Today, 50% of the department loves you. The other 50% hate you. Something will happen, and maybe they'll switch or whatever, happens. But he's been very supportive. But I also think that goes back to kind of what we were talking about earlier, too, that I know he trusts me, trusts us to give him good advice. I don't want to fail. So we're doing our due diligence to make sure that we're doing things right. Are we learning as we go? Yes, as everybody is. But, we've really jumped in to the docks, and we have the College World Series going currently, and Skydio and Axon were just here looking at our operations and what we do. And, we kind of take it for granted, coming from the perspective that we all come from, where we're cutting angles, we're working aircraft, we're working here, we're getting here, we're doing this. It's not a big deal to sweep that. But when you talk about that to other people who aren't from the man side, they kind of look at you sometimes. And again, I have to take a step back sometimes and go, no, we take this for granted because we've been doing it for, a lot of years. So it's not a huge deal to go, well, just cut the angle, or get a little higher, get a little lower, come back around and do this. And we're really I'm excited where we're going to be, because we're going to have these docks, and it's going to be a game changer. And I've said this, as all aircraft have. I said we will save somebody's life. Probably already have, the event that we had, or I said we're going to make a huge impact within the department. And I think this is someday somebody will all probably look back, and this time frame that we're in, this time span we're currently in, will be a game changer and almost a historical turn, I think, in the law enforcement aviation world.
Yeah. Okay, you brought it up, so I got to ask you, how long has your chief been chief?
Over 12 years.
Wow, that is a long time.
Yeah, he's yeah.
For a big department, that's a long time.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't realize, because a lot of people have seen chiefs come and go, and then you have to change over, and you got all this going on, and I know he supports us, and I appreciate that, as well as our assistant chief and even all our deputy chiefs, everybody. We're lucky in that aspect, but we're our mayor, our city council, but we've had our council come out, again, opening those doors and explaining and showing and advertising, selling it, explaining it to people, have gone a long ways. And we're doing it now with the drones and the aircraft, and kind of this conversation has been had with our council folks, our chief, I'm biased because I really like our chief. I think that he does a phenomenal job, and but I'm also very structured, so I'm good with making a business decision. I may not agree with it, but make it. Yeah, and we're moving on. You're the boss, and someday when I'm gone, the guys that are here may not agree with me. They'll make the best. I hope that they make the best decision that they can at that moment. But understand, there will be people that will go, that's wrong. That's wrong. You just have to know that.
No, that's always going to happen. Time has flown, as always. Time has flown by. So let's go around the horn here, Brian. Anything else you want to know about Frank here, or some closing thoughts?
No, I think I've interjected with all the stuff that came into my head. Again, just a great job, Frank, and role model for a lot of unit commanders, unit leaders, a lot of good lessons for a lot of people to learn on how to do it, because it is a very tough job. And just being a good pilot isn't enough. Just being a good supervisor or cop is not enough. And to have the combination of skills and the tenacity and dedication to get from point A to point B, like you have twice, is a rare thing. So I hope that a lot of people in those positions have listened and paid attention, because what you've accomplished was not a fluke by any means. And there's a lot of great lessons to be learned on how to get to point A and what point B should look like.
Thank you.
Yeah, you brought up fluke. If it was a fluke, it would have happened once, and the second time, maybe it was just a fluke.
That's a good point.
You've gone to two places, and you've leveraged the power of partnerships. And again, for the naysayers, like, oh, it's just this one political environment where this partnership concept worked. Well, no, you've proven that, through what you've done at two different agencies, to include the building of the drone or the unmanned program within the aviation unit. Those are all great things. So again, just encourage our listeners, embrace the partnership, embrace the integration of the drone program within the aviation unit. I think it's critically important. Like we talked about, it's not going anywhere. So I'm excited to have more of these conversations as we continue to have episodes of the Hangar Z podcast that integrate more of these drone operational conversations into the picture, because it's, again, not going anywhere. So thank you, Frank, for talking with us, for sharing a lot of the lessons that you've learned and your insight on leadership and all those things. It was a really good conversation. Thank you for joining us.
Well, I appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity. And it's like I said, when you get to talk to some of your mentors, and that it's a positive thing. But I would encourage anybody, as you said, reach out and call. Happy to talk to anybody. But I also, my closing statement is, I've been blessed to be surrounded by great people, and we got a great team right now that's bought on to let's move forward, let's keep advancing, let's keep doing it. And like I said, I love going to work, and I loved going to work when I was with the patrol, and it's great that we have great pilots right now with the city of Omaha and great leadership. So that can make a huge difference. So I've been lucky in that aspect.
Well, Frank, you're part of that great leadership, and I echo what John and Brian both said, that good leadership is hard to find, and you have the traits that with a proven track record that works. And I was fascinated to listen to how you moved through both departments and made positive change without being a tyrant, or without you did it with knowledge and experience and bringing that to the table, and you're making things better. And that's all we can ask from our leaders. Try and help us make things better, because we can't as an individual do it. We need a team to do it. We need leadership to do it. And you're doing it, Frank. So keep up the great work. We're very appreciative to have you back on the Hangar Z podcast, and we'll see you soon, I'm sure.
All right. I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Well, on behalf of Brian and John and I and Frank, we really appreciate everybody listening to the Hangar Z. Continue to subscribe and like, and leave us a rating and a critique, whatever you want. We're listening, and we're thrilled to have this opportunity to do what we do, and we're having fun doing it. This has been a great conversation again. So until next time, we'll see you on the next episode of the Hangar Z Podcast.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Hangar Z Podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe to hear more stories that promote the personnel and equipment behind the missions in public safety aviation. Lastly, stand by for a message after a word from our sponsors. Cheers. Thank you to our sponsor, Quantum Helicopters. For over 2 decades, Phoenix PD, Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, Mesa PD, and the Pinell County Sheriff's Office in Arizona have trusted Quantum Helicopters for primary flight training. We've helped boost their efficiency, cut costs, delivered unmatched quality, and keep them focused on public safety. Don't just take our word for it. Reach out and see how we can deliver the same results for your agency. Visit quantumhelicopters.com to learn more.
Thank you to our sponsor, Precision Aviation Group. Mission-critical operators and fleet managers rely on Precision Aviation Group as a worldwide leading rotor and fixed-wing MRO provider. PAG provides tip-to-tail solutions in 4 MRO segments: avionics, components, engines, and manufacturing DER services. A single point of contact gives you access to over $150 million in inventory globally, 24/7. Just call 800-537-2778. Precision Aviation Group. Others sell parts. We sell support.
Thank you to our sponsor, AEM. Their revolutionary MTP-136D P25 aerial firefighting radio is U.S. Forest Service approved. It's in stock and ready to ship. Grounded unexpectedly? No problem. AEM stocking dealers across North America are prepared to support all your mission-critical needs. Visit aem-corp.com/radio.
We hope you enjoyed this conversation with Chief Pilot Frank Peck. Frank's leadership style is inspiring. He has always taken his responsibilities seriously and finds ways to accomplish the goals of the unit. Thank you for sharing your journey, Frank. John and I just returned from ABSCON Phoenix, and we were overwhelmed by the support from so many of you that visited the booth. We cannot thank you enough. We're dedicated to continuing this podcast with the best guests we can find so that all of us can learn more. MHM Publishing, our sponsors, and our followers are the reasons we can get this done. Thank you to all of you. Stay safe, and we'll catch you the next time on the Hangar Z Podcast.